Hey everyone, welcome to the next episode of What's New in Veeam Data Cloud. This time I'm focusing on what's come out in July 2025. So you can now see, I'm sharing my screen, we've got the Veeam Data Cloud sign-in. This might not be familiar to yourselves that are already using Veeam Data Cloud for Microsoft 365, and here's why. In July, we launched the One UI experience for Veeam Data Cloud for Microsoft 365. This is an experience we've already had for Entra ID and Salesforce, and I'm pleased to report that Microsoft 365 customers are starting to be onboarded to this now. I just want to set the scene as to what this Veeam Data Cloud One UI thing is. It's very easy to think of this as just a centralized user interface, but it's much more than that. This is a powerful control plane exposing analytics, AI capabilities. I won't steal the thunder for all of this, but I recommend checking out Veeam's VeeamON keynote from this year, and you'll be able to find a lot more information on that. I will link that in the description below. So let's dive in here. So you'll see I've got Microsoft as well as Veeam authentication now. So we are working with Veeam authentication for those that potentially are worried about what happens if my Entra ID gets compromised. Well, you've got an alternate mechanism there. We have the ability to have multiple siloed VDC organizations. I'm just going to jump into one of my colleagues here because he's already got M365 and Entra set up. And what you'll see here is this global dashboard screen. So compared to the Veeam Data Cloud of last year, where there were individual portals for each of these workloads, you don't have that anymore. Instead, you can see here, I've got Microsoft 365, Entra ID, Salesforce, and at the time of recording it, Veeam Vault has just also dropped into this new experience. We're going to continue to add in those existing workloads into this One UI over the coming months, as well as start to expand those capabilities. Again, these are things we already announced at our keynote, so kind of outside of the scope of the conversation for what's new now, but worth checking out. So if I dive into Microsoft 365, one of the things that's worth highlighting is that we have a pooled subscription type now. So instead of before, if you had multiple different tenants, you'd be statically carving up your licenses between those different tenancies. You don't need to worry about that anymore. Instead, you can see here there is a subscription. It's licensed for 25 users, and I've got 16 licenses consumed, and that is broken out of all of these individual tenants. If I dive into one of the tenants, what you'll then see is the very familiar experience is still here. So we've got our dashboard view, giving information at a glance, such as license variations, M365 storage consumption, backup storage consumption, a protection overview, and I can dive into my backup policies so we can see those here. Again, very familiar if you've already used Veeam Data Cloud for Microsoft 365 in the old experience. So if I dive into a flex policy here, you'll then see all the backup session information. I can view those details. Everything is still as it were. In terms of search capabilities, that's all still here as well. You know, a more traditional basic search, the advanced search capabilities where you can query across numerous types of metadata or attributes. And then our restore capabilities still exist across each different workload, bulk restore capabilities for those of you using Express or Premium. We've still got our activity view. Something that is worth highlighting here is in terms of the RBAC model, that has evolved. So before, the RBAC was purely limited to Microsoft 365 within the legacy portal, and that's because each portal was an individual workload. Now you have an organization view because, again, if you recall, we go back to this top level, I can govern different workloads. So now we have the concept of an organization admin that can administrate every service, an organization viewer that can just see the services that are available, and then we can delegate RBAC roles for each of these individual services. So if you've got a segregation of duties whereby some people look after, say, Microsoft 365 and Entra, others with Salesforce, you can delegate just those specific permissions. All of those custom RBAC capabilities that you had within Microsoft 365 before have come over as well. So if you want to delegate control of access to only a subset of your M365 data or sites, or if you want to govern the way that you restore data, all those functionalities are still here. And we're continuing to add more. Now that Microsoft 365 has been ported into our modern experience, you're going to see a lot more features coming thick and fast out the gate. So I look forward to sharing the next updates with you in the next video. Until then, take care.